we had two more exciting matches in the Magnus Carlsen Invitational tournament online today. I'm just going to give you a little snippet from one of the games in the match between Fabiano Caruana and Ding Liren, numbers 2 and 3 in the world. Now this is the second game, and here you can see that Caruana has this pawn here. You can see all these pawns on light squares, so that bishop can't attack them. And white has a little bit of space. If that king could break through to the pawn, then obviously that would be good news. But basically, for the last few moves, Ding with black has been holding the position, and there doesn't seem to be too much going on. You know, it looked like it was coasting towards a draw, and then suddenly he played bishop f4. Now, whenever you offer your opponent the chance to go into a pawn endgame, then you have to be absolutely certain of the outcome. And that's quite a risky move in rapid play when you haven't got that much time to calculate. So you better make absolutely sure that you get it right. So after thinking for a few minutes, Caruana decided, okay, I'll take it. You don't have to take it. I mean, you could move the bishop away and it would be a draw. But bishop takes bishop, pawn takes bishop. And this is a fascinating position with some similarities to some studies I've been looking at recently, actually. So we have to consider all the options. So the king could head straight for the pawn. You could come back here. You could also play a5. So let's take a look, first of all, at king c5. I should say king d4 was actually played in the game. So king c5 played. Sorry, king d4 was played, but let's have a look at king c5. Well, black really doesn't have an option here, as white's king is breaking through. The king should come up, so king here, a5, you can go in with king b6 straight away as well. King takes pawn and king b6. Now, how do you hold this one? This is perhaps not so simple. In fact, it is possible to play king e3, and that's rather similar to the game, and we will look at that kind of continuation in a moment. But actually it's possible to draw this position just by bringing the king back. This is a very useful defensive technique to know about. So you trap the king at the side of the board. So the king comes here, and then king here. And now white plays a6. Now this is very important that black has a tempo on the other side of the board. You can still play f5. If the king had to move here, then of course the king would be out and you'd come across and take these pawns. So f5 is a crucial move, and that ensures that white's king remains trapped at the side of the board, and then it's just a draw. So that's presumably why Fabiano didn't play king c5. Instead he played king d4, which is a very tricky move. And here black has to get it absolutely right in order to make a draw. Of course, this position should be better for white, or at least white should be the only one with winning chances, because white's king is simply further up the board. So yeah, it has more possibilities to perhaps squeeze the black king back. So how does black draw? Well, a5 was played in the game, and that's correct. But let's have a look at a plausible move. Let's have a look at king d6. And actually white is winning after a5. And that just brings that pawn a little bit closer to the queening square, but also means this one can't advance. And well, let's see what happens. So if the king comes back, then actually this is winning. Basically white has gained a tempo on that line that we just looked at, and black can dash for the g-pawn, but I'm afraid this one is winning for white, and that's very important that that f-pawn is pinned, can't come to the second rank, and white will win that position. Okay, so white has just played the pawn to a5, fixing that pawn on a6. So what about king c6? Okay, white breaks through on the king side, so it turns into a race. But this is the kind of race that white is very happy to go in for, because white is ahead. And now we have an absolutely typical theme. Black takes en passant, and here white is winning by one tempo. Black's king cannot get back to stop this pawn, so black pushes the pawn, but I'm afraid to no avail, because here white gets there just in time to stop black's pawn. A very, very well-known theme in pawn endgames. You see it in studies a lot, but you see it in real games as well as here. So if we come back, so king d6 actually fails. f5 also doesn't work. You can just fix that, and now, well, black is in massive trouble. So let's come back. So king d4 has just been played. So a5 is actually the only move to draw the position. And it draws in a really interesting way. So white's king dives off for the a-pawn. It's actually possible to play king d4 here to sidestep that e-pawn, and the e-pawn prevents a check. Both sides would queen. It's still a little bit tricky. The simplest way is actually just to take that pawn, which looks counterintuitive. But watch what happens. So both sides go for it with their pawns, a typical race, and white gives check. So that's the annoying thing about taking the pawn on g2. Now, if all these pawns were taken away and black were left just with this pawn on the 7th, the bishop's pawn on the 7th, then that would be a draw. But usually, if there are other pawns on the board, then this is very often a win. In fact, in this case, this is a theoretical draw, because that pawn covers this square, and there's a little maneuver that white usually makes with the queen, and that pawn prevents it. Anyway, this is the game continuation. Let's just show you. So king takes pawn will fail to this. Well, queen f3 is good, but this is really simple, and then you come in with the king. So after the check on a8, the king goes to g1. Now we can use the typical staircase technique to get closer. A check. Now in fact, Ding does not need to take that pawn. It's sufficient just to play here, and it's a draw. But anyway, this is a draw as well. That pawn is absolutely crucial. If you put that pawn back on h7 or h6, then white would win. So let me show you why this is a draw. And now if queen f3, king g1, now if that pawn were back there, then white would be able to play queen g3, and that would force the king in front of the pawn, and then white's king comes closer, and it'll be mate very soon. But in this position, well, white has absolutely no way to make progress. No way at all. You can give a check, but the king just, it's crucial the king doesn't go in front of the pawn, but the king would just come here. It's a draw. So Caruana just took that, and now this is this typical drawn position. And here's the crucial part, that in this position, again, you don't go in front of the pawn, which would allow white's king to come closer. but instead you play king h1. So there's this ancient stalemate trick. Queen takes pawn is stalemate. And that's how the game ended. But fascinating position. And I thought it was incredible that Ding played this bishop move, bishop to f4. And I'm sure that he'd calculated this. I'm also sure that he would know those theoretical positions, you know, back here when both sides queened, and this pawn is in the crucial position to actually force a draw. So there we go. In both matches, both matches went to Armageddon. There were 2-2 after the 4 games, and Caruana actually defeated Ding in the Armageddon, and Yan Nepomniachtchi defeated Maxime Vachier-Lagrave in their Armageddon game. So it's still early days, but there'll be more coming tomorrow. Don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe, and do consider supporting us on either PayPal or Patreon.com. Links down there. Thanks a lot. Bye now.